Trump repeats California forest management is to blame for wildfires despite it being dismissed as devastating lie. I believe the federal government manages most of the forest land in CA, so he thinks they should accept responsibility for the fires while he continues to accept no responsibility for COVID. Trump never set foot in a forest. What a piece of shit he is. Christ almighty. Forest/wilderness area owned by the state of California. Area owned by private interests. Area owned by the federal government. Trump needs to get his adult diaper-wrapped butt off his golf cart and get to raking the forest floor. Trump will continue to double down on this bullshit. The alternative is to admit that he was wrong. Global warming is a problem that he is ignoring. Guaranteed Trump is celebrating and cracking jokes about the fires to his aides who are laughing with him while adding it to their notes for their upcoming tell-all books. I see again the forest fires are starting, he said at a rally in Swing State, Pennsylvania. They're starting again in California. I said, you gotta clean your floors, you gotta clean your forests. There are many, many years of leaves and broken trees and they're like, so flammable, you touch them and it goes up. This sounds almost exactly like what he said last time around, when he blamed it on them not sweeping/raking the ground of the forests. It's just so bizarre. He doesn't give a shit because California, Oregon, and Washington are Democrats, so he makes up some unbelievably stupid thing to blame it on and refuses to do anything to help. He's a complete sociopath. Imagine if Bush came out after Katrina and accurately explained that the structures to prevent overwhelming flooding were long neglected by local government that had serious corruption problems. Not even lying. He'd been eaten alive. It's fucking irrelevant outside of it being an unbelievable stupid lie. I believe Trump's pants are to blame for the fires. I'll show myself out. Oh, don't worry, it's being parroted all over Facebook around here. The fires are God's punishment for California legalizing pedophilia. It fucking sucks right now. I've been seeing a lot of Facebook propaganda from conservatives about how bad forest management is to blame and not climate change. Trump's comments are on brand. Look. We all know he's an idiot. Dementia has set in and he's a one-trick pony now. He hears a theory and that's it. No matter if it's COVID-19, if it's drug, BLM. You name it, he will go back to the same gimmick over and over. Sell all that federal land to cronies and log it bare, that's their solution. Get the rakes, that's all it needs is some good raking. Rake the forest. Sounds reasonable. It's 100 years worth of bad policies at the state and federal levels stopping fires from burning naturally until there is way too much fuel built up, and it is also made worse by climate change. I could take Trump a lot more seriously in his criticism of the state if he worked to improve the federally managed lands, and to do something positive about climate change. God, I can't stand this motherfucker. Donald Trump, who was born and raised in NYC and rarely left its metropolitan area, is an expert in West Coast forest management. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, where these fires are happening is significant. Yes, California has a fire season in the dry areas of the state. But this year, from WA down to Northern California, we are seeing fires west of the Cascades, which is a temperate rainforest. Rainforests are not supposed to burn like this. Growing up in Western Oregon, we didn't have big forest fires west of the Cascades. Now we do. Trump could shit on a plate, call it cake, and his base would eat it all up. What he means by forest management is allowing logging companies free rein to extract resources. https://thinkprogress.org/Trump ignores climate change, offers handouts to timber industry in wildfire executive order 65 of 4 DBC 382 loggers would love to end the roadless rule that protects pristine wilderness from being damaged and exploited. If 9/11 happened this year, Trump would have blamed New York dens. There's no headline about this man that I would fail to believe. The federal government is responsible for 96% of the land on fire. Trump is a fucking idiot. He blames himself. If he was right, then it's his fault. It's federal land that's burning. Okay, and Oregon, and Washington, and Colorado? The entire West Coast is in flames. For the last week, air quality in my home has been beyond hazardous that they don't have a rating for it. It is that way throughout the I-5 corridor in Oregon. There are fires to the east and ocean to the west. There is no respite for anyone to go to get out of it. Yes, the National Guard was finally called in a few days ago, but something like this is where you call a national emergency. You should have brought in the Marines, Army etc. to help fight this. You used condom of Cheeto dust. People are dying and losing everything, and this is the president's reaction, just a sick human being. I hate this man. Much like with COVID, Trump will refuse to help California as it will be seen as politically advantageous for him to do nothing. That way he can blame California and the evil libs as the source of all the problems there. Trump only cares about himself and what you can do to help him. If you're not someone who supports him, or someone who helps him in some fashion, you are expendable. Forest management can only go so far. It's not a substitute for getting climate change under control. The vast majority of public forest land in California is federal land. If forest management is the problem and the majority of forest land is federally owned, it logically follows that additional funding should be supplied to state and federal agencies responsible for forest management. It's always the same story. When a disaster occurs in blue-run cities/areas, these assholes blame the Democrats, but of course when it occurs in a red city/area, Republicans have no blame. Hurricane strikes Puerto Rico and wipes out infrastructure? Wildfires in California? Dems to blame. Hurricane strikes North Florida, red counties, and wipe out infrastructure? Wildfires occur in Oklahoma and Kansas? Disasters happen, let's all come together. Trump's interest in these wildfires extend only to the point of it serves a momentary opportunity to bash Democrats. Guy is so fucking stupid a troll could probably convince him that the way to stop these fires is to put up a statewide sprinkler system in the forest treetops. Meanwhile, coronavirus has ravaged the nation and economy, Trump virtually ignoring it until mid-March, and now we know he was purposefully downplaying it for months. Excuse being that he doesn't want people to panic, and in the next breath says that US streets will be the apocalypse if Biden wins. Nearly 200,000 dead. This is about one Benghazi per day, every day, for the next 500 years. And this country had nearly half a decade of Benghazi investigations, dozens of committee hearings, investigations. Meanwhile, COVID-19 victims in Florida? DeSantis isn't to blame, shit happens. COVID-19 victims in California/New York? Dems are to blame. If Biden wins, there needs to be a commission to investigation Trump/family/associate crimes the likes of which this country has never seen. Particularly with coronavirus. People need to be in prison. We always knew Trump was an American traitor when it came to Russian and Putin, but coronavirus showed that extends to his own interests. One thing we never hear is how fire suppression over the last couple hundred years due to development, housing, cities, etc. is directly in the way of once natural widespread fire events that would happen every 25 to 100 years in certain areas, particularly the West, clearing out the forests of young growth while the old growth trees would survive. This is particularly important in places like California, Oregon, Washington, where 95% of old growth has been replaced with second and third growth forest, a hodgepodge of forest management. Some set aside for complete preservation, some is growing fourth growth timber as we speak and is surrounding by hundreds of miles of single species timber friendly trees, often not a local species, some is developed into cities, some rural neighborhoods. All of these land managements have pockets of green spaces that have created an uneven network of forest density, and factoring in 200+ years of more and more patchworks, invasive species, climate change, human arson, human accidents, natural fire events, dry weather, etc. we are in the pinnacle of wildfires. For example, 90+% of the oak savanna environment in the Willamette Valley of Oregon has been replaced with agriculture or pine/fir plantations. Also, while I'm at it, I wish politicians and news media would talk about climate change in terms of human development on the world. There's a reason national parks are gardens of Eden, because people haven't developed it. Imagine what your backyard would have looked like. Mine would be full of 300+ foot firs, and 15-foot wide cedars bears would use to den in, and I can walk to Seattle.